It was meant to be a normal morning at Seattle Airport until it wasn't. Without warning, 12 police German shepherds snapped out of formation and charged straight toward a 29-year-old woman standing at gate 14. Passengers froze. Officers shouted commands, but the dogs ignored every order, circling her with teeth bared and eyes locked on the necklace resting against her throat, as if that tiny pendant hid a danger no one else could sense. Within seconds, security stormed the terminal. Was she carrying something illegal? Was she being hunted? Or were the dogs protecting her from something invisible? What happened next would leave the entire airport, and later the entire nation, speechless. Before we begin, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. A thin veil of morning mist clung to Seattle-Tacoma International Airport as travelers drifted through the terminal under a washed-out gray sky. Ava Mitchell moved quietly among them, her steps light but controlled, the kind of gait born from months of forcing herself not to look back. At 29, she carried the beauty of someone who had once been carefree. Soft brown hair falling just past her shoulders, a fair complexion touched by sleepless nights, and green eyes that seemed to constantly search for something no one else could see. Her slim frame hid the tension coiled inside her like a wire pulled too tight. She had learned to mask grief well since the day her husband, Logan Mitchell, a Navy SEAL with a reputation for impossible bravery, vanished during a classified mission. The world saw a widow moving on, only she knew she was simply surviving. Today, she was flying to Denver to handle the last batch of paperwork officially closing Logan's case, an act she dreaded more than she admitted. The airport felt like a sterile maze of polished floors, espresso scents, and mechanical voices calling out departure times. But Ava sensed something off the moment she entered gate 14. It was a faint prickling at the base of her neck, a strange heaviness in her chest, as if someone were standing just behind her. She shook it off, adjusting the thin silver necklace resting against her collarbone, a simple pendant shaped like a teardrop, the last physical gift Logan had sent her 3 weeks before he disappeared. She touched it the way some people touched a wound, half seeking comfort, half expecting pain. As she checked the time, a voice echoed sharply over the terminal. K9, sweep approaching. Ava looked up, noticing a line of German shepherds moving in perfect synchronization with their handlers. There were 12 of them, each large, disciplined, and intimidating. Their coats ranged from sable to rich black and tan, their strides purposeful and silent. Leading them was Officer Marcus Caldwell, a tall man in his early 40s with a rugged, weathered face, deep-set blue eyes, and a trimmed beard peppered with gray. Years in federal security had carved stern lines along his jaw, but his movements revealed a thoughtful, careful mind. Someone who had seen chaos and learned to read danger before others smelled it. As his team strode past, he nodded politely at passengers, projecting calm professionalism. Then everything shattered. One dog, an older German shepherd named Rex with a grizzled muzzle and a scar across his left flank, lifted his head sharply, nostrils flaring. His ears snapped forward, a low rumble vibrated from his chest. The other 11 dogs followed within seconds, lifting their heads in perfect unison like a silent alarm had passed through their bones. Officer Caldwell frowned. He tightened his grip on Rex's harness. Easy, boy. Easy. But Rex didn't hear him. None of them did. With sudden force, the entire K9 unit broke formation, claws scraping against tile as they whirled and charged directly toward Ava. A wave of gasps rippled through the crowd. Coffee cups dropped. A mother pulled her child behind her. 2 businessmen stumbled backward, tripping over their briefcases. Ava froze, breath choking in her throat. What is happening? She whispered, stepping back instinctively. The dogs encircled her in seconds, their bodies forming a tight, living barrier. They didn't lunge. They didn't bite. They barked, deep, furious, commanding barks that echoed off the ceiling like the rafters were shaking. Their eyes weren't on her face. They were fixed on her necklace. Officer Caldwell pushed through the circle, his boots hitting the tile hard. Ma'am, don't move, he said, voice firm but not unkind. Up close, Ava noticed a small, jagged scar near his right temple. An old injury, perhaps from a blast or a mission gone wrong. He looked like a man who trusted instinct more than protocol. I don't understand, she stammered. Her voice trembled, despite her effort to hold steady. Her heart slammed against her ribs, the sound roaring in her ears. Grief had made her familiar with fear, but this was different. This was the kind of fear that came with being singled out, hunted by something unseen. Two TSA officers arrived. One was Sarah Donnelly, a petite woman in her mid-30s with curly, dark blonde hair tied back tightly, freckles across her nose, and sharp hazel eyes that missed nothing. Sarah's personality was brisk, efficient, shaped by years of dealing with emergencies without losing her cool. The other was Officer Trent Walker, a burly man with a square jaw, close-shaved beard, and shoulders so broad he seemed built for breaking down doors. Stoic, quiet, the kind of man who didn't talk unless it mattered. "Scan her," Caldwell ordered. Sarah lifted a handheld scanner, her finger steady. "Ma'am, I'm going to check the object the dogs are reacting to. Please stay calm." Ava's breath hitched. "Object? It's just my necklace." But when Sarah passed the scanner over the pendant, the device emitted a sharp, unnatural beep. A metallic frequency flashed across its screen, something foreign, something military. Trent's brows knit. "That's not jewelry." Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. "Sir, it's emitting a signal." Officer Caldwell exhaled hard through his nose, eyes narrowing. "That's impossible, unless—" Ava felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "What does that mean?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Caldwell met her gaze, and in that moment, she saw the truth reflected in the grim set of his jaw. "It means," he said quietly, "you're wearing something that shouldn't exist outside a classified facility." Ava's stomach turned cold. She clutched the pendant instinctively, realizing it suddenly felt heavier, like it had been waiting all this time to reveal its secret. She shook her head slowly, disbelief washing over her. "I didn't know. I had no idea." And that was the moment she realized. This one necklace, the last gift from Logan, was about to change everything she thought she knew about her life and his disappearance. Rain drummed softly against the tinted windows of the Federal Examination Room, casting thin silver streaks across the floor as storm clouds rolled over Seattle. Ava Mitchell sat stiffly in a metal chair, palms pressed against her knees to keep them from trembling. Her breathing came shallow and tight, as if each inhale had to compete with the growing weight inside her chest. The K-9 unit had escorted her here less than an hour ago, a blur of barking dogs, startled passengers, and the cold, metallic scream of the scanner that exposed the secret inside her necklace. Now she waited for answers she was no longer sure she wanted. The door opened with a low, mechanical hiss, and two FBI agents stepped inside. The first was Special Agent Daniel Hargrove, a man in his early 50s with a broad, intimidating frame and the presence of someone who had spent decades giving orders people didn't dare question. His face was deeply lined from years in counterintelligence, etched with exhaustion and a kind of hardened wisdom. His salt and pepper hair was cropped short, matching the trimmed beard that sharpened the angular set of his jaw. There was something unmistakably military in the way he walked. Shoulders squared, steps controlled, gaze sharp. A man shaped by too many operations that went wrong. Behind him was Special Agent Mia Torres, a woman in her late 20s with long black hair pulled into a sleek ponytail. Her skin was a warm olive tone, and her expression carried a mix of intelligence and quiet determination. She was shorter than Hargrove, but stood with a confidence that filled the room. Her dark eyes assessed everything at once, the eyes of someone who had learned early in her career that trusting appearances could get you killed. She placed the tablet on the table gently, almost thoughtfully. Ava studied them both, gripping the edge of the chair until her knuckles turned white. "Ms. Mitchell," Hargrove said, his voice deep and controlled, "I'm Agent Hargrove. This is Agent Torres. We need to ask you some questions about the device found inside your necklace." The words, "your necklace," hit her like a bruise. She forced a nod. "I didn't know there was anything inside it. It was a gift. The last gift Logan ever sent me." Her voice cracked on his name. The agents exchanged a look, not pitying, not skeptical, but alert. Torres tapped the tablet and activated the screen. A faint hum filled the room as the small projector on the ceiling blinked to life. "We extracted the contents of the chip," Torres said quietly. "You should see this." The screen flickered, filling with static. Ava's pulse fluttered violently. Then the image stabilized. Logan appeared. Not the Logan she remembered from their wedding photos, laughing, suntanned, confident, but a version worn down by sleepless nights and worry. His once short chestnut hair looked longer, tangled as if he'd been unable to cut it. His square jaw showed the shadow of a beard. His blue eyes, normally steady and bright, were sharp with fear. He sat in a dim room, a single light illuminating one half of his face while the other disappeared into shadow. "Ava." His voice was strained, like someone speaking through pain. Ava's breath caught. She reached toward the screen instinctively, fingertips brushing the light. "If you're seeing this," Logan continued, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone to burst into the room, "it means I didn't make it out. It means I was right." Fear spread through Ava's chest like ice. Logan pushed his hand through his hair, frustration shaking his voice. "There's a traitor inside Raven 7. Someone is selling our technology, feeding foreign brokers classified systems. I didn't know who to trust. All I knew was that I needed to get this data out before they got to me." Ava pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting the sound rising in her throat. Logan's voice softened. "Ava, don't trust anyone. Not command, not intel, no one. Trust your instincts. They're better than you think." The video ended abruptly. The room sank into silence. Ava stared at the fading ghost of her husband on the wall, her mind scraping for air. She felt exposed, stripped raw, as if someone had reached into her chest and pulled out the last fragile piece she had left of him. Agent Hargrove folded his arms. "Ms. Mitchell, there's more." Torres picked up the necklace from the evidence tray. The pendant looked harmless, small, silver, polished smooth, but now Ava saw it differently. A trap, a warning, a lifeline. "This micro-module," Torres explained, "doesn't just store encrypted data. It also emits a low-frequency pulse whenever it comes near military networks, secure environments, or large communication hubs." Ava blinked. "Meaning what?" "Meaning," Hargrove said, his tone tightening, "you've been broadcasting your location to someone, possibly the same people responsible for your husband's disappearance, every time you stepped into a government building or an airport." Ava's stomach clenched as heat drained from her face. Every errand, every appointment, every attempt to settle Logan's affairs, she had unknowingly been signaling her movements. She imagined unseen eyes tracking her steps, waiting. "So I've been followed," she whispered, "for months." Torres nodded slowly. "And you had no idea." Ava felt the world narrowing around her. Logan had tried to warn her. The necklace wasn't a gift. It was a message, a final plea for her to survive when he couldn't. She pressed a trembling hand to her heart, gripping the fabric of her shirt as if she could keep herself from unraveling. "Why didn't he tell me?" she whispered. "Why send something so dangerous?" Hargrove's voice softened, just enough to reveal the man behind the badge. "Maybe he knew that if anything happened to him, this would be the only way to reach you." Ava swallowed hard, the truth settling like a stone in her chest. She had been marked without knowing, watched without seeing, and now she understood one thing with absolute clarity. Logan's disappearance wasn't an accident. It was a warning, and she was already in the middle of it. Wind swept across the airport parking structure in sharp, chilly bursts, carrying the scent of rain-soaked asphalt and distant jet fuel. Ava Mitchell stepped out of the terminal flanked by 2 FBI agents, her pulse still unsteady from everything she had learned inside. The world outside felt louder somehow, car engines revving, horns blaring, luggage wheels rattling over concrete. But inside her, a strange quiet had taken hold, the kind that comes right before a storm. Special Agent Daniel Hargrove led the way with long, purposeful strides. His bulky shoulders shifted beneath his dark jacket, the fabric tugging slightly around the old shoulder injury that had never quite healed, an IED blast in Afghanistan that had left him with a permanent stiffness and a distrust of silence. He scanned the surroundings with narrowed eyes, always expecting danger even where others saw nothing. Beside Ava walked Special Agent Mia Torres, her sleek black ponytail swaying with each step. She held herself with the calm sharpness of someone used to balancing empathy with suspicion. Her expression softened whenever she glanced at Ava, but her hand never strayed far from her holstered weapon. "We'll get you to the vehicle," Torres said gently. Then we'll debrief somewhere safe. Ava nodded, even though her throat felt tight. She wrapped her fingers around the thin chain of her necklace, a habit she could no longer indulge without fear. The pendant felt heavier than ever, cold against her skin, a quiet reminder that Logan had tried to speak to her long before anyone else would listen. She had seen his eyes on the video, afraid, desperate, still trying to protect her from a distance he hadn't chosen. The memory of it churned inside her chest. They were halfway across the lot when a low growl erupted from Rex, the senior German shepherd who had accompanied them. The dog was 8 years old, with a battle-worn body. Faded coat, scarred flank, cloudy but still razor-aware eyes. He stopped suddenly, hackles rising like a wave across his spine. Hargrove reacted instantly. "Everyone get behind cover!" His voice struck the air a half-second too late. A black SUV barreled around the corner and headed straight for them. Its windows were pitch black, its front grille dented, and the engine roared with the hungry sound of a vehicle built for ramming rather than running. Torres shoved Ava behind a concrete pillar while Hargrove drew his gun with a practiced snap. "FBI, stop the vehicle!" The SUV accelerated. Rex lunged forward, barking in furious warning. The rest of the K-9 unit responding from a distance with sharp, disciplined howls. 2 airport tactical officers sprinted toward the commotion, one tall and wiry with sandy hair, the other short and stocky with tattoos covering his arms. They moved decisively, sliding tactical stanchions into the SUV's path. The SUV swerved, clipped the barrier, and screeched sideways before speeding back toward the exit ramp. No plates, no identifying marks, but its intent had been unmistakable. "They were trying to take her," Torres muttered, breath shaking as she helped Ava stand. "Or silence her," Hargrove corrected grimly. Ava's legs weakened beneath her. She felt the cold hands of realization gripping her spine. Someone knew she had seen Logan's message. Someone had been following her, maybe for months, and now that she had stepped into the open, they wanted her gone. "This is connected to Logan," she whispered. "It has to be." Hargrove gave a tight nod. "Which is why we need to move. Now." They loaded her into an armored bureau SUV and tore out of the parking structure with a full K-9 escort. As the city blurred past the windows, Ava sat rigidly, hands clasped in her lap. Her mind raced through memories. Logan's restless nights before deployment, the way he had flinched at sudden noises, the long stares he gave the front door as if expecting trouble. She had assumed it was the weight of service. Maybe it had been the weight of betrayal. Hargrove handed her a thin folder. "You need to see this," he said. Inside were the classified documents Logan had filed in the months before he vanished. Reports about stolen microtechnologies, intercepted blueprints, suspicious troop movements around 3 SEAL facilities, Coronado, Little Creek, and Key West. But the chilling detail wasn't in the content. It was in the stamp on the last page, "File not found." Torres leaned forward, tapping the redacted lines. "These didn't go missing by accident. Someone erased them deliberately." "Someone inside Raven 7, Ava whispered. "Someone Logan trusted." "Possibly," Hargrove said. "But we need to know who." That was when Ava remembered the storage unit. Logan had rented it 6 months before he disappeared. He said it was for extra equipment, but whenever she asked what kind, he changed the subject or pulled her close and kissed her forehead. A small, aching smile touched her lips at the memory. "I know where we need to go," she said quietly. The warehouse sat on the outskirts of Tacoma, surrounded by a fence and lit by flickering street lamps. The inside smelled of dust and steel, a metallic echo of secrets buried too long. Hargrove pried open the roll-up door, and the beam of his flashlight cut through the darkness. Inside, they found a small metal table with a locked case. Torres picked it open with careful precision. Inside lay a crypto-sealed hard drive, a folded map marking 3 SEAL bases, and a handwritten note in Logan's hurried script. "The 4th one is someone you once trusted." Ava's breath trembled. Someone she trusted. Someone Logan believed would betray her. Hargrove checked the warehouse cameras next. "Feeds have been wiped," he muttered. 48 hours ago. Torres exchanged a grave look with Ava. Someone was here right before us. Ava felt the cold truth settle over her like a shadow. Whoever they were, they knew she was coming, and they weren't done yet. A thin frost glittered on the pine needles as dusk settled over Mountain Pine, the small northwestern town crouched beneath towering evergreens and swirling pockets of cold air. Ava Mitchell stepped out of the FBI vehicle with a knot in her chest tight enough to steal her breath. She had imagined this place countless times while reading Logan's letters. Remote, quiet, a place where he trained, watched storms roll in, and found clarity between missions. Now it felt nothing like memory. It felt like the edge of a trap. Special Agent Daniel Hargrove scanned the surroundings with the grim intuition of a man shaped by decades of counterintelligence. His strong, weather-lined face shifted under the fading light, the scar above his brow catching the glow like a pale slash. Trailing behind him was Agent Mia Torres, agile and alert, her dark ponytail brushing the back of her tactical jacket as her sharp eyes absorbed every detail of the narrow dirt road. Both agents moved with the silent intensity of predators aware that another predator watched. Ava followed closely, her heartbeat syncing with the forest's low hum. Every shadow seemed alive. Every gust of wind felt intentional. She tugged her jacket tighter, shivering not from cold, but from the crushing fear that she was too late, that Logan's last footprints in this town belonged to a ghost she was chasing in circles. Hargrove's voice remained low as he guided her toward the forest trailhead. "This is where we intercepted the last transmission from your necklace. Logan was here, or someone who took him." Ava swallowed hard. "Logan used to hike here for hours," she whispered, remembering how he once told her the forest made him feel small but steady, like every decision mattered. "If he was running, it's because he knew he didn't have much time left." Torres glanced at her, compassion flickering across her otherwise steady features. "We're going to find out what happened, whatever it takes." She meant the words, Ava could feel it, but their warmth couldn't fight the icy dread consuming her. They walked deeper into the trees. The forest grew darker, the shadows stretching long and sharp. The German shepherds moved ahead in a disciplined wedge, their large bodies slicing through brush with barely a sound. Rex, the senior dog of the K9 unit, led the team. Under the thin beam of Hargrove's flashlight, Rex looked almost spectral, his graying muzzle, thick, muscular frame, and eyes bright with an instinct that outran any man-made device. He stopped suddenly, ears rigid, hackles rising. Torres froze. "Movement." "Something," Hargrove murmured. "Or someone." Ava's breath hitched. The forest held its silence for a single heartbeat. Then violence erupted. Gunfire cracked through the trees. Figures darted through the darkness, silhouettes wearing dark tactical gear, moving with sharp, violent precision. One lunged toward Ava. He was tall and sinewy, with a narrow face partially masked by a black scarf. His movements were aggressive, confident. Someone trained, someone who had done this before. His eyes were cold and predatory, the kind of eyes belonging to a man who had long buried whatever humanity once lived inside him. Before his hands reached Ava, Rex launched forward with a savage bark, slamming into the attacker's legs. The forest exploded into motion. Dogs lunged, men shouted. Torres fired a warning shot that split the air. Hargrove tackled another intruder, a broad-shouldered brute with cropped black hair and a jagged scar tearing through his cheek, the kind of scar earned in close-quarters combat. He snarled and fought with the desperation of someone who had everything to lose. Ava stumbled back, her pulse pounding so brutally she felt it in her teeth. Her mind screamed for Logan, the Logan who had always stood between her and danger, but she was alone now, or she had been, until a German shepherd threw itself between her and death. A third attacker grabbed her arm. He was young, maybe late 20s, with sharp cheekbones, a narrow mouth, and dark eyes full of fanatic resolve. His grip tightened as he hissed, "Where's the chip?" Ava's skin went cold. "What chip? I don't—" He yanked her closer, voice trembling with both rage and fear. "The one he hid in your necklace. It opens the vault. You think we'd let you walk around wearing it for nothing?" Before she could answer, a second German shepherd lunged, knocking him to the ground. Torres moved fast, pinning him with practiced force. The forest settled into a harsh rhythm of panting dogs, groaning men, and the metallic scent of gunpowder. One of the attackers, the youngest, was still conscious. Torres hauled him upright, his breath coming in ragged bursts. His face was smeared with dirt and fury. "Tell me why you're here," Torres demanded. The man spat blood, glaring at Ava as if she personally ruined his life. "You want the truth? Fine." His voice shook, not from weakness, but from terror. "Logan Mitchell isn't dead. You think we'd be here if he was?" Ava staggered. A sound escaped her, half gasp, half plea. The man sneered. "He's being held. They're trying to break him. He won't give up the access codes, but you—" His eyes dropped to her chest, to where the necklace had once rested. "You're the key. You always were." Ava felt the world tilt, the forest spinning. Logan alive, Logan tortured, Logan refusing to betray his country even as his own people hunted him. The attacker gave a final broken laugh. "And time's running out." Ava's knees nearly buckled. Hargrove steadied her, his voice grave and quiet. "Ava, everything's about to change." The desert wind swept across Nevada's barren plains, carrying dust and heat that shimmered beneath a bruised dawn sky. The land stretched empty and hostile, a place where sound died quickly and secrets buried themselves deep. Ava Mitchell stepped out of the armored FBI vehicle, boots sinking slightly into the sand. Her heart beat a frantic, uneven rhythm beneath her ribs. Every breath tasted like iron. She had seen the coordinates extracted from the chip. She had followed them across state lines, deserts, and sleepless hours. But nothing prepared her for the bleak truth that she might be standing above the last place Logan Mitchell ever existed. Special Agent Daniel Hargrove stood beside her, scanning the horizon with the grim precision of a man carved from war. His weathered face tensed under the rising sunlight, highlighting the rough lines etched into his jaw and the tired resilience of someone who had buried more teammates than he cared to remember. He adjusted his tactical vest, never letting his hand stray far from his sidearm. "This is the location," he said quietly. "Signal ended right beneath us." Mia Torres approached from behind, wiping sweat from her brow. Her sleek ponytail swung against her tactical gear as she crouched to examine a patch of disturbed sand. Her sharp, analytical gaze swept over tire tracks, boot prints, and faint chemical residue. "They were here recently," she murmured, "within the last 24 hours. Ava's pulse jumped, hope and dread clashing violently in her chest. The German shepherds moved ahead, noses low, bodies tense. Rex, older, scarred, and wise, led the pack. His dark eyes were alive with instinct, twitching toward subtle scents that human senses couldn't dream of detecting. He froze suddenly, then let out a sharp bark that echoed across the empty desert. Torres reacted instantly. "He's got something." They followed Rex to a rocky outcrop. Hidden behind a cluster of jagged sandstone was a metal grate flush with the ground, weathered, rust-bitten, and almost perfectly disguised. Hargrove knelt beside it, running a gloved hand over the faint engraving near the latch. "Military fabrication," he muttered. "Seal level. Someone spent a lot of money trying to hide this." Ava stared at the grate as if it were a doorway to another world, one she feared and longed for at the same time. "Logan?" she whispered. Rex barked again, louder, urgent. Hargrove forced the grate open. The stale scent of recycled air wafted upward. "Everyone down," he ordered. The descent into the bunker was steep and suffocating. The dim corridor below flickered with dying fluorescent lights. The walls bore scratches, some deep, some frantic, as if someone had tried to claw their way out. Ava's stomach tightened. Her legs moved on instinct, carrying her past Hargrove and Torres despite their warnings. Her mind pressed through fear, through grief, through months of suffocating uncertainty. If Logan was here, trapped here, then power stronger than terror was pulling her forward. The bunker opened into a chamber, and there he was. Logan Mitchell sat tied to a chair bolted to the floor, wrists raw, face hollowed by exhaustion. His dark hair hung longer than she had ever seen it, tangled and matted. His once strong jaw was shadowed with a heavy beard. His skin, normally sun-warmed, was pale beneath the harsh fluorescent glare. But his eyes, his deep, steady blue eyes, lifted when he heard her steps, and they still carried the same quiet fire she fell in love with. "Ava?" His voice cracked like a broken piece of glass. She ran to him, hands shaking as she reached for his face. Logan, I'm here. I'm right here." He gave a weak, crooked smile, the kind he used to when he wanted her to stop worrying even though everything inside him was falling apart. "I knew you'd come," he whispered. "You always find me, even in the dark." Hargrove moved to cut the restraints. Torres scanned the room with her weapon raised, but for Ava, the world had narrowed to one point: Logan's breath against her hands and the unbearable thought of how close she came to losing him forever. "They tried to break me," Logan murmured. "Wanted access codes, wanted the vault. But I knew you had the key. I knew you'd understand." Ava hesitated only a moment before unclasping her necklace. The pendant felt cold, colder than the desert floor. She found the micro switch Logan once taught her to recognize. A thin, hollow projection flickered to life, revealing encrypted files, financial transfers, names, communication logs. Everything Raven 7 had tried to bury, everything Logan had risked his life to protect. Hargrove stared, stunned. "This is enough to bring down half the network." "All of it," Torres corrected. "This exposes everyone involved." Logan closed his eyes, relief breaking across his face like sunlight. "Good. Then it wasn't for nothing." Ava touched his cheek, tears burning her eyes. "None of this was for nothing. You survived. That's what matters." They escorted Logan out into the morning light. He walked slowly, body weakened by months of captivity, but each step steadier than the last. The sun rose higher, painting the sand gold. Wind tugged at Ava's hair as Logan took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles as though reacquainting himself with the sensation. "You saved me," he whispered. "No," Ava replied softly. "You saved yourself. I just followed the only thread you left me." Logan smiled, weary and full of love. "One small necklace," he murmured, "and it saved my whole life." In the end, as the desert sun washed over Ava and Logan, their story became something larger than survival. It became a reminder, quiet, powerful, and unmistakable, that some miracles are not loud or dazzling. Some come softly, like a whisper from God, guiding two lost souls through shadows until they find each other again. And maybe that is how life works for all of us. We walk through storms we never asked for, carry burdens no one else sees, and face nights that feel far too long. But somewhere in the quiet, God still moves. In the smallest signs. In the people he places beside us. Even in the threads we hold on to when everything else falls apart. Ava thought she was following a necklace, but truly, she was following a path written long before her fear, written by a God who never lost sight of her, even when she couldn't see him. So, as you leave this story behind, may you remember this. Miracles still happen, faith still carries us, and God still rescues those who refuse to give up hope. May the Lord bless you, protect your home, and guide your steps, today, tomorrow, and every storm beyond. Before you go, share this story with someone who needs a reminder that God is still working. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. And if you believe in second chances, in miracles, and in God's timing, hit subscribe so these stories can continue to lift hearts around the world. God bless you and everyone you love.